Bertha, I think, just came in, have been amazing superwomen this week. And they will also be helping us monitor the chat and keeping notes, because I'm also thinking that some things related to Clever might come up in here. And I am going to share my screen and go through a few slides, and then we will take your questions. So can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So we just modified some slides that we had from site trainings. And there I put the link to the slide deck at the beginning of the chat. So if you want to look at them now, you can, or if you just want to know that you have that for later. And this was just the same stuff that Lori and Darcy and Cecilia and Francie have been sharing this week around some protocol, but this is something to think about also if you are doing Hangouts with your students, to set some protocols and norms for participation. This is probably a list of resources that you have seen over the last few years. We haven't changed our set of resources that we've been supporting for a while. We're trying to stick with them. And most of you in the room, actually is probably a cross section, but just earlier today, we did a little office hours on Unique, which is the curriculum for the ESN classrooms. And then for all the other things, the most used resources are the Learning A to Z resources. We have RAS Plus ELL edition this year, plus we have Vocabulary A to Z. Then we have the MobyMax suite. We have the Read and Write for Google Chrome for extension, and also Equatio and Fluency Tutor from Text Help. And then we do have some accounts for I Know It Math. So that's just kind of an overview. On this slide, I'm not going to go to a lot of these places, but I've tried to update links to resources at the website. We've done some really great personalized webinars with people from Learning A to Z that Katie Bear has set up for us. So the last webinar we did, she went into a lot of science resources. It was really, really good and helpful. And so if you didn't have a chance to watch that, I've linked that archived webinar. And for those of you who maybe weren't using the RAS Kids accounts and now want to, you can link this kidsatozee.com. That would be the URL that you would be putting in your Clever Teacher page, or you would be pushing out on whatever online platform you're using. And go down. So the next slide is just kind of an overview. I mean, this is just things. Reason why RAS Kids might be a good thing to be using right now is that you can actually track data and usage and see progress. There's a lot of data in there. You can individualize and differentiate. You could have students reading books aloud, recording for fluency and turning them into you and offering feedback. There's running records. There's just a lot of data available in there, which helps us with accountability for when this really counts and we need to have something to say, you're not doing this, or I see you're in there. So are there any questions right now around the Learning A to Z resources? No? Because I can't see the chat.
No, I don't see any. I just went and wrote down the link to the slide deck, and I'm going to post that right now.
Okay, it's in the beginning of the chat. I put it in earlier.
It didn't show up, so I'm going to post it again.
Okay, all right.
So Sandy, just so you and the participants know, if you come in late to the meeting, you just see the chat from when you enter.
Oh, that's good to know. So I probably did that before anyone was there.
If you accidentally leave the meeting and come back, it's the same thing. You'll only see the chat from when you enter whatever time.
Perfect. Okay. So obviously, I love Learning A to Z, and there are so many resources in A to Z. We've talked about this. There is really no reason that you need to be going out and looking for comprehension activities, fluency, phonics. There's books. You can assign things to students. There's just so much in there. So I think of all the things, especially for the MMS teacher who's been using this, and even if you don't have your kids in there yet and you want to get them up and running, your water contact, we're here to help you. We can help you. We're good at this. We know how to get kids in there. You bookmark it on your Clever page, or if you don't have a Clever page, you could post it on a classroom or send it out to kids in whatever format, and then they could get back in there and use that as a regular resource that they could revisit either every day or on some schedule. So MobyMax, we also have the MobyMax suite, and this slide has a lot of text on it. I'm sorry about these slides because they're just a lot of links, but that picture is kind of a snapshot of the modules that are available, and all of those maroon colored ones are really lower early literacy, phonics, spelling. So for people who are really looking for some lower skilled resources, setting up a MobyMax account for all of your students and maybe just focusing on those could be a good way to start. We also did a great webinar with Jazz, who's our rep from MobyMax. She did it just for us, and it was a great group, all personalized questions just for us. So that recorded webinar is linked on this slide here in the bottom right-hand corner. MobyMax also has a really good Vimeo channel where they have tutorials on different modules. You just have to make sure you stay up to date because MobyMax has changed and improved, and so you don't want to be watching a video from 4 years ago. And they have also created some guides for remote learning, as everyone is jumping on this bandwagon right now and trying to help people with resources at home. If you are using MobyMax with your students, you already know how to do this, but this is the unique URL that you would post to your Clever teacher page. Please do not sync with Clever unless you have a site license. We've already had a couple schools this week do that, and it totally messes up your entire roster. There are only 4 or 5 schools in our district that have purchased MobyMax. Wilson, Hannah Ranch, Dover, Riverside. That might be it. Francie, does that sound about right?
I'm actually going to correct you there. There's only 2 schools with functioning MobyMax accounts. Hannah Ranch has paid for it, but it hasn't been working all year, and they need to figure that one out.
They actually only bought Moby Learning, so I think it might depend on what you bought. So no matter what, the easiest way to do this is, so MobyMax, the icon might possibly show up and it might ask you to sync with Clever. You don't want to. You want to bookmark or link this MobyMax link, and if you don't know how to do that, you would do it the same way you would link Epic or other resources on your Clever teacher page. That's where the students will go, and then they will log into their individual account that you have set up for them. Also, if you are interested in turning on the young sign-in for younger kids, please do not do that without talking to your team members, because that also changes everyone's account in the on the roster. So that's all I had for MobyMax right now. We've done a lot of training on MobyMax over the last few years. A lot of it is about just making sure you have your roster set up and that you know that you can individualize each student's experience in there. You can put them at different grade levels. You can assign things to them. You can link it to IEP goals. So we can't get into all of that, but it's pretty awesome, and there's accountability. You can see how long they're in there, when they're in. You can actually push out how many minutes a day you would like them to do certain modules. Any specific questions on MobyMax before I go on? No? Okay.
I don't see anything so far.
Okay, so then read and write for Google Chrome. I'm hoping most people have this added to their teacher account. If you don't yet, this might be a good thing to add, because if you are running a lesson and demoing something, this would be a great way to highlight, look up words. So if you were pushing out a lesson live or even as a video, you could be using the toolbar tools to catch their attention and to accentuate certain words or features of text. So every teacher in West Contra Costa, gen ed, special ed, can add it for free. The link is there that you have to fill out. Then you have to manually add the extension as an adult. And then it takes about 24 hours to have it validated by text help at their central office. And if you can see my screen, let's see if this will work. You see how I just opened the toolbar? Can you see that? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Point to it with your cursor. It's at the top with the
So here's all the
highlighter.
tools right here. I just turned it on. So this is word prediction, the
Now we're getting a
dictionary,
thumbs up.
right? And it's an extension, so it lives up here in this little parking lot to the right of the Omnibar. So you have all these different extensions that you can have. I've had a couple people contact me this week because they couldn't find it for a student. So remember, after your little picture, if you click on the 3 dots, there's a little overflow parking lot for extra extensions that didn't fit on your bar. So you might have things that you thought you lost, like my clever somehow got pushed way over there, and that's something I'd want to bring and move closer so I can always see it. So you can control that by the size of your Omnibox. You can make your Omnibox smaller and larger and see more extensions. So we are still completely able to add students to the Read and Write for Google Chrome Premium toolbar if you have students that you had an intention, to add and just didn't get around to it. In the upper right-hand corner on this slide, I've put a direct link to the Google form where you can add them one by one, or if you've worked with us before, you know that you can send us the relevant information that we need in an email, and we can add them to the premium toolbar. And then on this slide, we just have some, go ahead.
All students in the district, special ed and gen ed, who don't have the premium do have the free version, which might be enough for most students, the premium.
Right. So every single student, and this would be great if you guys could be advocates for this, every single student in West Contra Costa, when they're on their Chromebook, should see the purple puzzle piece, and it has a very robust text reader. So they can have text read out loud in a Google Doc and on the web and on a PDF. They can open up that puzzle piece and use it even without the premium. That's something that text help gives us for free. So they don't see all these things, but they would see basically like a Sony Walkman, they're going to see play, pause, stop. They have that, which is the text reader.
And show them where everybody has voice typing if they don't have the premium toolbar.
Yeah, I think, okay, so I think I have that down. So let me go through. So in this slideshow, again, that you're going to look at later, here's just a little video that we really like about the grammar checker. It's just a how-to video just to revisit that. You could use some of these videos to even share with your students, posting it for them that have it. And then they, for example, let's say I have a classroom and only 5 of my students in that classroom have the premium toolbar. You could post something to Classroom just to those 5 students to remind them how to use a feature, and the other students wouldn't see it. Also, the masking tool might be really helpful for some of our students with all of this online reading. So this masking tool kind of mimics color overlays, or those little, like when people take an index card and cut out a window in it to help kids focus on text. There's a built-in masking tool that you can have the box, whatever size you want. You can have the color of the box, whatever color you want, and like it can be really light or darker, and then you can have the background light or dark in different colors. So those are 2 tools that we just wanted to highlight. So this is kind of the free versus, I always kind of say it's like Planet Fitness memberships, right? If you have like the cheaper membership, you can have the free toolbar where you can have things read to you. And then everyone under tools has voice typing. So everyone can be writing it's under tools in Google. So if I'm in a Google slide, or I'm in a slide right now, but if I'm in a Google Doc and I want to use my voice to type, every single student in West Contra Costa has voice typing in their Google account. You don't need to do anything special. And then you could use the free toolbar to have things read back. So that's kind of the premium versus freemium suite of tools that students have access to. Students also all have Chromebooks now, and there are additional accessibility tools that we could help you set up for that student or talk to them about it. Some, larger cursors. There's another dictation tool. There's sticky keys. There are different features that are also, so if you were just to look up Chromebook accessibility tools, you might learn about something that one particular student might be struggling with at home and needs help with. And lastly, we do have a whole bunch of Google Classrooms that we've been maintaining for probably 3 years now that have archived webinars. This is places where we could create a little professional learning community. You could post things that are working, not working. We can help you. So to minimize maybe the emails going back and forth, we could maybe come back and revisit some of these. So we have the unique one, which is for ESN, the ebooks and digital texts. I actually started with Tatiana years ago, and Allison is in there now, and it has all kinds of resources, and I try and share things that the district library puts out. We have a read and write for Google Chrome, all kinds of, again, help documents, and then the Learning A to Z and the MobyMax. So those would be the ones that would probably be relevant. And that's all I have for slides. So is there anything else I should share on my screen before I stop sharing?
I think that's fine. I just wanted to also say, you guys should all know who your AT specialist is that supports your school. It's either going to be me, Karen Kelly, Sandra Oliver, who was just presenting, Mary Hamilton, Tom Bucky, or Helen Miller. So if you have questions that don't get answered here, or something you're thinking about, or something that comes up next week, we are all working remotely and we are here to help you. We've been doing Google Hangouts with groups of teachers and individual teachers over the past week, and we'll continue to do that. So please reach out to us.
Even just as simple as I've had a few teachers where I've just practiced doing a hangout with them. So we're like a safe zone. So like, let's do this. Okay, you share your screen. So we're happy to do that because we have more time to do that right now than classroom teachers who are trying to get things up and running and organized. While I have this open before I stop sharing, I did open a couple tabs. So hopefully, I don't know who's in here from Harding, but this is one of Harding's. I just wanted to remind you that so here I'm in Learning A to Z, and I wanted to remind you that at the top we have Raz Plus, and then we have Vocabulary A to Z. Those are the 2 subscriptions we have. We don't have these 3 right now. These are what you're focusing on. And remember, when you are rostering kids, you can create groups. So you can have leveled groups in your Learning A to Z account. So that way it's very easy to push out just right text or assignments for those students. And then similar in MobyMax, I don't even know who I'm in here. I think I'm in Pinole Middle School, it doesn't matter. But if I go to the backpack and, oh, it logged me out, sorry. Well, you can create a group. So if you have a certain group of students that you want to manage, you can have groups. So you don't have to be looking at the whole roster of everyone. And I just had a flashback to Jazz when she was doing our webinar with us with MobyMax. This FAQs page rocks on MobyMax. It's really, really, really good. So if there's any question, I always forget to go here, but when you're in your MobyMax account, if you go up to the question mark and you go to the FAQs, there's tons of help in there. Okay. Any other specific questions?
Any questions on anything?
Your chat is very quiet. It's quieter than it was this morning.
That's scary.
Actually, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm coming from Manzanita Charter, and it's so tricky because, as you know, I'm struggling to get certain district resources because of my charter. Who can I speak to for support, for IT support, or for anything so I have a Google Classroom or Google Classroom set up already for my students that I started 2 weeks ago, but for just like additional guidance and support, who can I speak to?
Are you talking about curriculum in particular? I emailed you and I've set up some accounts for you at the beginning of the year.
That's
so
right.
I'm your AT contact. So you can totally respond to me with MobyMax and learning A to Z. But as far as classroom curriculum,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are using what we're using. Francie, do they have Clever, or what is Manzanita doing as far as curriculum?
So they would have to set that up as an individual school. We don't supply the curriculum for
Okay.
Manzanita. That's theirs.
Okay.
So
No,
and
that's what I figured.
yeah, and in terms of just technical support,
Yeah.
our district IT department is working not only with our teachers like they usually do, but they're working with our parents, and that's parents of 28,000 kids. So I don't know how much help that they will be, but maybe Sandy could give you access to some of we've done some presentations on Google Classroom and setting up. And so I think if you just shoot her an email and say, hey, can you send me those slides or share with me?
Great. Yes.
Yeah, I
that
can
might
totally share those bit.lys with you. There's there's been some awesome training, and also the Google Teacher classroom, like the Google Teacher Center online has a lot of help documents. So yeah, so just why don't you think of your questions and just shoot them to me. I'm great at finding stuff, so I'm more than happy to help you.
Thank you. And if you can, if you can email me those slides, I'll shoot you an email about those.
Okay, I did email you the other day with some accounts. So if you just want to respond to that and tell me what you want, that would be great too.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Sandy, there were a couple of questions in the chat, but they seem to have been answered. One was, does read and write work in Google Forms? And Tom answered, yes, it does. And somebody was asking about an app for translating talking into sign language. And I said they should reach out to their DHH department because I can't think of any.
Right. And then also I saw something about, there are some text readers already built into things like Newsela and some of the others. So sometimes the read and write toolbar will conflict. So just be patient with look at if a site already has a built-in text reader, sometimes bringing up the toolbar can be confusing. So just be aware of that.
Right, because also in Newsela, they have their own highlighters, and then read and write has highlighters. So sometimes it does get confusing. I've had that in a classroom before.
Right.
Any other questions? Tom, you want to add anything? Mary?
Francis just said, so the hotspots are through IT, and I know they were working on getting more. So I would suggest contacting the, putting in a blanking.
I got it while you're blanking. So the principals actually today were charged with collecting lists of kids who need hotspots. There's also on the district website under closures, there's a button that people can push to actually register for a hotspot. The parent needs to include child first name, last name, ID number, school, and a parent contact, like an email or a phone.
Yes, thank you, Francie. I was just going to chime in with that. Any students who have hotspot needs or Chromebook needs that have been issued by the district, like they don't have one of the district Chromebooks or other things, that should first go through their principal or double check the website for any like parent support links.
And let us know if there's anything else that's come up, equipment wise that you need. We can try our hardest to try and help get some of that stuff out to students or get you in contact with the right person.
I'm just going to chime in about that too, Sandy. We will do our best, but at least for Chromebooks that are one-to-one issued by the district, we really have to let them go through the district avenue first because the logistics of getting materials to students is really complicated right now with the shelter in place and the safety. So I would say First Avenue absolutely needs to go that way first. We'll always do our best, but explore that because we are also facing the same hurdles as a special ed department as IT is in terms of physically how to get materials to people right now.
Okay, so we just have a few more minutes. I'm not sure if there's anything else people want to see or any other questions. Most of you, almost everyone should have received or been copied on an email that went out from your AT contact. And so feel free to respond to that and ask further questions if we went over something too quickly or we didn't cover it. Obviously, there's a lot of other resources in Clever, and there are some amazing resources being uploaded to the e-learning site. So if you need help with Epic or other ebook resources, I would say the one thing that we didn't talk about here is Bookshare. So if you do have students using Bookshare who qualify, I've been gathering up some resources. Minda at Aloni had asked me for some parent-friendly resources for her Bookshare users. So we can definitely help you with that, because Bookshare is something that the students can definitely log into at home and access a lot of books. So that's a nice supplement.
I would also watch as many of the ed tech sessions as you can. They did a lot over the past couple weeks, and they're going to do some more next week. There's only a couple left this afternoon, but and I think everyone needs recharged. But I think after a weekend and a few days, if you could jump on some of those next week, they're very helpful.
Especially Classroom Basics. If you haven't set up a Google Classroom, it would go through that first, and then
they've also all been recorded, and they're all posted on the e-learning website.
Right.
I just want to say, reach out, to your teams too. I mean, if I've been trying to reach out to schools that have multiple ESN classrooms or just teachers that I'm working with. And if we're trying to set up a kind of a site Google Hangout meet, that's a nice way for at least people to feel like we're on the same page, so don't be afraid to reach out, as one-on-one, or we can do some, I see a lot of preschool teachers or a lot of TK teachers, we can even do classroom age kind of, meet-alikes. So don't be afraid to do that.
One other thing that I just, in this last couple of minutes, is I wanted to say that I think for those of you that are ISP, RSP, full inclusion, really getting in tune with what the classroom teachers where your students are pushed into are doing and getting added to their Google Classrooms as a co-teacher is going to be really important right now, so that you can help modify, supplement whatever you need to do for your caseload. And that might make more sense, so that the student doesn't have to go multiple places to get access to their distance learning material. So we want to keep this simple for you and also for the students. So just be aware of what other people are doing. I've gotten a lot of principals have set very clear directions, and all teachers are using very similar tools. And I think that probably helps with collaboration. Some of you we know work alone. You might be the only, one. So reach out to other RSP teachers or MMSN that teach the same level, and maybe you guys can collaborate on some lessons. If Lori talked this morning in the more advanced Google Classroom, you guys could even create a master classroom and have lessons that both of you pull from. So I'm thinking about like MMSN, primary or middle school. Maybe there could be some cross sharing if you are feeling like you're kind of isolated. This session, either we'll share it, or I think Lori, I think this will be posted. I'm not sure if they're going to post it on the website. If not, we'll get it out to you in some way. But I'm recording it right now, so it's going to go somewhere.
I believe it'll go to that e-learning link that Francie and Bertha just posted. It should be there. It takes a little bit of time, and so I would give it a day or so.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's 1, and thanks for your time. And we're here. We're here to help. So use email, set up a Google Hangout with someone. It's really easy for us to share a screen and walk you through some stuff. And we all want to do this with you. So don't hesitate. Yeah.
Is there a way to save the chat conversations? I know in Zoom we can, but I don't see it here.
I'll just copy it, and I'm going to copy it right now and put it into a Google Doc, and then I can share that. I think what they've been doing with Ed Tech team is when they post the video, sometimes they put the chat right next to it as a Google Doc. So I'll have that already created for them.
But if
And-
you wanted to do it right now for yourself, you would just copy it.
Yeah, you just like click in the chat and say select all and then copy, and then you've got everything that happened.
And Bertha's going to share notes with Sandy so that those can get published too. So basically, it's just a consolidation of the chat without our chatting.
Okay.
And I mean, there's so many things fancy and clever that they could be, you know, work using as resources. So just make sure that you know, look at the e-learning site, look at what's available in Clever,
I don't see where I
and,
can.
you know, use those things because a lot of them are high quality, completely vetted, and they work right together with Classroom or just right off of Clever.
Yes, I think I already got used at the beginning.
Okay. All right. So I think I'm going to stop recording.
Wait,
We
what
done?
again?
We got someone talking in the background. Okay.